Young man, having a job, two things about having a job, young man: you will never, ever get wealthy on a job. And the second thing is a job will rob you of the most precious resource that you have in your life, and that is time, right? That's what I want to talk to you guys about today on the channel. Having a job and what a job really affords you. But young man, I have been working since I was maybe 13 years old. Started off with cutting grass with my father for, a couple of commercial buildings or commercial restaurants. I was very fortunate to get on as a union laborer with my father when I was like 19 years old. And I was making like union scale, which is about $18, $19 an hour. And from that point, young man, I haven't looked back when it came to working jobs that pay really well. Right after that, I got on with our local utility company. That was 20 something dollars an hour just to start. And I was 23 years old when I got there. And young man, as I look back on it in 40 plus years of working, I've never seen anybody accumulate real wealth. Real wealth. I'm talking about the type of wealth where you can go when you want, eat when you want, do what you want on any one given day, like that type of wealth. Now, to be honest and to be clear, and I don't want you guys to think that I am shitting on the job right now, just giving you guys some real information, because in your life, much like it was when I was younger, it was people telling us that you got to go and you got to go get a good job. You got to get an education. You got to get this good job. And the whole idea, young man, that is what we thought was that if we can just get this good enough job, we would be set for life. So I know you're hearing this stuff because I heard it too. And I just kind of want to give you the real when it comes to working a job, right? So I'm not shitting on it, young man. Having a job has afforded me some great things. So I don't want you to think I'm suggesting to you that you shouldn't work one. What I'm saying to you guys, again, is just kind of giving you a real perspective of someone who has worked a job for years, that what you really get with that. So, young man, I have been able to buy very nice homes, rental properties. I've been able to drive new cars, been able to take care of my children, that type of thing. I've been able to do, some pretty decent things in my life having a job. But here's some things that I can't do. Young men, like I said, I've been working now for over 40 something years, and none of these jobs are going to give me the type of wealth that I can pass down to my children or my grandkids. That, young man, I have worked 40 something years, the best part of my life, my younger years, I have given to companies. And again, it's not like I'm going to get the type of wealth that I talked to you guys about earlier. That is not going to happen, young men. So, there is a acronym for a job that I've heard my entire life. They say a job is a JOB, just over broke. And young man, that has been my experience with jobs for as long as I can remember. People would just pay their bills. A job is enough, young men, for you to just pay bills. If you manage it right and if you make enough of it, sure, you can have some things, but most people live right to their means, meaning if they're making $100,000 a year, very few people live below their means. So if you're making $100,000 a year, you're spending $100,000 a year. And if you're spending $100,000 a year and you're making that, you just really have enough to pay bills. And that has been my experience, young man, by and large, with people working jobs, even good ones. That yes, you can buy a nice car. Yes, you can, go on trips every year. Yes, you can do all of these things. But what you cannot do is whatever you want on any one given day, because you have to be at that job. What you can't do is really make what you're worth. You have a cap, you have a ceiling on what it is that you're being paid. And you are never being truly paid what you are worth. That I drive a semi truck every day and I make decent money, but am I really being paid what I'm worth, risking my life driving 90 something feet of vehicles, dodging bad drivers, being in horrible road conditions? I'm not being paid what I'm worth. And you never will on any job. They dress it up for you with the ideal of making a high wage, but it will never be what your time is really worth. Working a job, young men, will allow you to pay bills, and that's great. Like I said, I'm not shitting on having a job. You absolutely need that in order to function in society. You need to be able to pay your bills. You need to be able to have somewhere to live. All of that stuff costs money, and a job is the way normally that people go about doing those things. I've done it my entire life, and I've watched other people alongside of me do the same thing. I know the end of this picture for me and many other people. The end of this picture is that you are going to work until you can retire, if you can retire. Most people will have to work long after they're supposed to retire because they're not able, or they weren't able to keep up with inflation. They didn't manage their money right. And as a result, most people will have to work a job until they die. Even if you don't have to do that, you can retire. But because you don't have any real wealth on that job that you have worked your entire life, now you have to manage, and now you have to, well, we can't really go here and we can't really do that because we're on a fixed income. This is after working 40 something years, right? You still can't really do what you want to do because you don't have real wealth. You have a income, you have a job income. And you will always be limited with that, young man. See, again, we thought that if we can just get a good job, that will take care of all of our money problems. Nothing can be further from the truth. So while I will tell you guys having a job is good for paying bills, there's another way. There's another thing that you can do even while working a job that will afford you, or that would give you the chance or the opportunity to have wealth, to give you the chance and the opportunity to have your time, right? Before that job takes it all from you and you won't be able to get it back. See, young man, there are two types of people that work a job. The first type of person is the person that, you know what? They don't want any other responsibility besides their job. They want to go punch their clock in the morning, punch it in the afternoon, and don't even think about that job anymore until the next day. I was married to somebody like that. I've been an entrepreneurial type person my entire life. And I'm having a conversation with my wife, ex-wife now. And I'm like, I just don't understand like how you don't want to do this, how you wouldn't want to work for yourself. And she said, you know what? When you work for yourself, you are on call 24 hours. It's you. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you run that thing. When I work for somebody, when I punch out at 5 o'clock, whatever goes on after that isn't even my issue. I don't care. So you have that type of person. You have another type of person that is more in line with like how I am, which is, yeah, I'll work a job because I have to take care of myself. But I understand that this is not the be all to end all. This is not really going to get me where I need to be. This is going to allow me just to fucking pay a bill every week. And God forbid something happens to it. God forbid that they downsize. God forbid that they decide that my position, they don't need it anymore. I am forever dependent on this thing. And I know that if something happens to the post office tomorrow, for the most part, I'm fucked. See, when I was younger, young men, if something happened to a job, I can go get another one. But at 50 something years old, no, you're not doing that. If you are younger now and you don't have the type of experience and the job that you're on now decides to cut out, you're fucked. You're fucked. So it's that type of person that knows that the job is good and necessary, but I'm not putting all my eggs, or they're not putting all their eggs in that carton, because they know that they will never, ever get wealthy for working a job. And they know that all they'll ever really be able to do is pay bills, that there's a ceiling. That, yeah, again, you may be able to drive nice, you may be able to go once a year, this, that, and the other, but that's nothing, young men, that pales in comparison to having all of your time. That pales in comparison to waking up in the morning and being able to say, you know what, I don't want to do this, that, and the other today, as opposed to waking up and saying, I gotta go in here for 8 hours and do this thing. So it's that type of person, young men, that sees the writing on the wall and says that I'm going to do this thing, but this ain't the be all to end all. There has to be another way that, or another chance, or there has to be another way that I can go about accumulating some real wealth outside of my job. And young men, that is entrepreneurship. That is the person that is going to work the job and do some other stuff on the side, because they know that there's a ceiling with working this job and you're not going to go any higher than that. So what you have to decide, young man, and you need to decide this very early, is which one of those do you really want to be, right? Do you want to have that thing where you are just over broke, where you're paying bills, but it's never quite enough, or you have to live so far below your means to actually be able to save or to travel or to do the things that you really want to do? And y'all, we know we have to work. We have to work in order to pay our bills, in order to take care of ourselves. But if there are those of you who, they call it the rat race for a reason, young man, it just never ends. Just never ends. So for those of you who want to do more than just work a job and pay bills your entire life, if you want to have a chance at real wealth, there's 3 things that you should be doing right now, especially right now at your young age. First thing, young men, that's going to have to be different is how you do your time when you get off work. Now, we've already established that you have to work. You have to work to sustain yourself. But what needs to change, young men, is when you get off work. See, for the longest time, I was good just putting in my 8, making my money. Now it's my time. Now I can, fuck off. I can do whatever I want to do because I'm put my time in, right? Young man, I heard a saying years ago, and it stays with me to this day. Livings are made from 9 to 5, 8 to 4. But fortunes are made from 5 to 3 in the morning, from 8 to 5 in the morning. In other words, young man, when you get off work, what it is that you're doing, right? Most times when you get off work, you fucking off. You chasing women, you at the bars, you smoking weed, you're doing all of this stuff because you're satisfied with the job, right? You're satisfied with the money you're making. If you want to get off that hamster wheel, young man, it has to really be a matter of, what am I going to do with this time that I have when I get off work? Am I going to watch TV and just do frivolous activities? Or am I going to find a thing that I like to do and start developing that thing? Now I have time. I have to do this stuff, or I had to do that stuff for 8 hours. But now, what do I do with the next 8 hours? That I could do a thing or learn a thing that can get me off of this, or get me out of the rat race. What can I read? What can I study to start putting me on a path to where I could possibly be wealthy one day? That's the first thing. Second thing, young men, is you got to start hanging out with different people. You got to start hanging out with different people. Again, one of those sayings that I heard a long time ago, that if you hang out with 5 broke people, go to the mirror and you're looking at number 6, right? It really is the ideal, young man, that you are a product of who you hang around. If you're hanging around people that are cool with working a job, are cool with just hanging out after work, doing whatever, then again, what motivation is there for you to do anything different, right? As opposed to if you're hanging out with people that are talking about residual income, entrepreneurship, learning new skills outside of work, right? Young man, the conversations are different. The activity is different. Everything is different when you start hanging around like-minded people. Again, if you're hanging around people that are cool with a job, they don't want any more, when you start talking about, I got to get off, or I'm going to get off and I'm going to go read this book, or I'm going to go and research this thing, they looking at you like you nuts. They're looking at you like you from another planet because they are not on that page. They are on the page where we done put our time in already. Now it's time to kick it. So you need to be around people that supports a different lifestyle. One of the first businesses I got into, I was in my early or mid 20s, and I was working a job, and I got into this business. It was a Amway business. I dated myself on that. Ask your parents if you don't know what that is. But it was a computer Amway business. And one of the things that we did, young men, was we had these meetings, right, every few nights. And one thing that I admired as I look back on that culture, young men, everybody that was involved in this thing, that we were all on the same page. We were all talking about the same thing. We were all talking about a day when, if we worked this right, we could leave the job. We were all talking about the latest book that was out that was teaching us about the discipline and the habits and the mindset. We were all at these meetings. We were at conventions where people would come in who had become successful at this thing, and they were telling us how to go about doing it, right? I was around people that weren't stuck on the job, that weren't just talking about Friday's paycheck and what they were going to do. I was around people that was talking about things that I had never even heard before, things that I didn't even know was possible. And I would have never known those things if I didn't change the people that I hung around. That was a lesson that I learned early on, young man. You are really a product of the people that you hang around. Lastly, young men, you have to commit yourself to learning. You have to commit yourself to learning. I tell you guys all the time that I believe that I can do brain surgery, that I can learn to do it if I have enough time and somebody is teaching me. But the only reason I believe I can do that, young men, is because I've had to learn stuff from scratch, stuff that I had no idea. My content that I do now, I'm doing stuff on a computer, and I am doing stuff on different platforms that I never thought I would be able to do. But I had to commit myself to learning these things. I couldn't be, young men, like, you know what, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. You learn just like you learned your job. This thing, this new skill that you're going to learn and develop, you're going to have to learn that just like you learned your job. And see, most people don't have a problem with doing that because they know they're getting money right away. This is not that. This is learning a thing now that may not produce any type of result for years. Young man, in my business now, in my content creation business now, I am cognizant of things that I learned years ago about belief and mindset and habits. There is stuff that I read in books, stuff that I heard at these big conventions that I used to go to that are just as applicable today as they was yesterday. You have to commit yourself, young men, to learning. And this is the importance of you starting this while you're young, right? Whatever you decide to go into that is going to get you out of this rat race of a job, young man, it is going to take you time. It is going to take you so much time to learn these skills that are necessary to get you out of this. But you're going to have to commit yourself to learning. Listen, success leaves clues, young man. Heard that years ago. But it is very true. There is somebody that is doing the very thing that you want to do to get you off this hamster wheel. There's somebody that has made videos, somebody that has written books about this thing. And young man, that's what you're doing when you get off work. Instead of hitting the bars, instead of chasing pussy, what you're doing is you're learning and you're researching this thing that you're interested in, so you can learn how to become good at it. You can learn how to master it. You can learn how to monetize. And that is not going to take a week, a month, a year. That is going to take time. So you have to commit yourself to that process. You want to do more in your life, young men, than just work a job your entire life. These 3 things. Commit yourself to learning. Change who you hang around. Hang around people that have the mindset that want something more than a job. You know, you have to work a job to sustain yourself. But what you do with the time that you're not working, to change your mindset there, to use that time to get you off of this hamster wheel that's called a job. Young man, that's what's necessary if you want a chance. If you want a chance, young men, of building some real wealth for yourself. Now listen, I'm not coming to you as if I've already accomplished that. I haven't. But what I will tell you, young men, is that I am closer than most as a result of the things that I'm doing now. So listen, that is all I have for tonight, young man. Hope that adds some value. Hope that helps you guys. Again, don't you leave this video talking about the over 50 guy said that I need to quit my job because I got to get off the hamster wheel. Don't you do that. I ain't told you that one time. I told you to work a job to sustain yourself, but if you want more, you're going to have to do something in addition to that job. That's the point of the whole video. All right? So listen, young men, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Check out the resources in the bottom of the video. One-on-one coaching is still available. Young man, I have a new course out. You can check that out. Free ebook is available. I have all kinds of stuff down there that can be very helpful to you guys. So definitely check that out. All right. So as usual, I am the over 50 guy. We'll be back with another one soon.